The rain came down in sheets that Thursday evening, turning the parking lot into a maze of puddles that reflected the dying light. Sarah Mitchell sat in her Mercedes, engine idling, staring at the quarterly reports on her tablet. The numbers blurred together. 15-hour days, back-to-back board meetings, a company to save from bankruptcy. At 42, she'd built an empire but lost herself somewhere in the foundation. Her phone buzzed with another urgent email, but something made her look up. A small figure darted past her windshield, a flash of pink in the downpour. The little girl couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Her yellow raincoat was unbuttoned, her brown curls plastered to her face, and her sneakers splashed through puddles as she ran toward the tree line at the edge of the corporate park. Sarah's hand froze on the gearshift. The woods beyond were dense, stretching for miles into state forest land. No child should be out there alone, especially not in this weather, especially not as darkness fell. Before rational thought could intervene, Sarah grabbed her blazer from the passenger seat and threw open the car door. The cold rain hit her like a slap, instantly soaking through her designer suit. She ran toward the small figure, her heels clicking against the asphalt until she kicked them off, leaving them behind like shed skin. "Wait," Sarah called out, but her voice was swallowed by thunder. The girl didn't turn. She reached the edge of the parking lot and plunged into the woods without hesitation, disappearing between the trees. Sarah's heart hammered as she followed, branches immediately catching at her clothes and scratching her arms. The manicured corporate landscape vanished behind her, replaced by wild undergrowth and towering oaks. She could barely see the girl's pink backpack bobbing ahead through the trees. "Stop. Please stop," Sarah shouted, pushing through a thick stand of bushes. Thorns tore at her sleeves. Her stockings shredded on brambles. None of it mattered. She finally closed the distance and reached out, catching the strap of the girl's backpack. The child spun around, her face streaked with tears and rain. Her eyes were wide with panic, and she struggled against Sarah's gentle grip. "Let me go. I have to find him." "Find who, sweetheart?" Sarah dropped to her knees in the mud, bringing herself to the girl's eye level. "Tell me what's wrong." "Ma'am, I can't find my daddy." The words tumbled out between sobs. "He went to get firewood and he didn't come back and Mama's sick in the tent and she can't walk and it's getting dark and I don't know where he is." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Your mama. There's a tent." "Where?" The girl pointed deeper into the woods, her small hand shaking. "That way. We've been camping since Tuesday but Mama got real sick and Daddy went to find help and he said to stay with Mama but he's been gone so long and..." Another sob cut off her words. Sarah pulled the child close, feeling the tiny body trembling against her. Her mind raced through scenarios, each worse than the last. A sick woman, a missing man, a terrified child, miles of wilderness, and night falling fast. "What's your name, honey?" "Emma." The girl hiccuped. "I'm Sarah." "Emma, I need you to be very brave and show me where your mama is. Can you do that?" Emma nodded and grabbed Sarah's hand with both of hers, pulling her forward. They moved through the darkening forest, Emma navigating with the confidence of someone who'd walked this path multiple times. Sarah's bare feet bled from rocks and roots, but she barely noticed. She pulled out her phone. No signal. Of course not. They were too deep in the woods. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only 10 minutes, they reached a small clearing. A faded blue tent sagged between two trees, its fly blown partially loose. Sarah could hear someone coughing inside, deep, rattling coughs that spoke of serious illness. "Mama." Emma ran to the tent and unzipped it. Sarah followed, ducking inside. The woman lying on the sleeping bag was younger than Sarah had expected, maybe 30, with the same brown curls as her daughter. Her face was flushed with fever, her breathing labored. She opened her eyes when Emma touched her arm. "Baby, you're back," she whispered. "Did you find?" She stopped when she saw Sarah. Confusion and fear flashed across her face. "Who are you?" "My name is Sarah. Emma found me in the parking lot." "Your husband," Emma said, "he's missing." The woman tried to sit up but collapsed back, coughing. "James. He left yesterday morning. Said he'd hike to the ranger station, get help. We've been living in the car for 3 weeks, camping when we could. Lost our apartment, both lost our jobs. I got sick 3 days ago and now I can't." She broke off, tears sliding down her temples. "My daughter. Please, my daughter needs." "Shish," Sarah said, touching the woman's forehead. The heat radiating from her skin was alarming. This wasn't a cold. This was a serious infection, possibly pneumonia. I'm going to help you. Both of you. But I need to get you out of here first. Sarah looked around the tent. A nearly empty package of crackers. 2 juice boxes. A first aid kit with the contents spilled and scattered. No medication. No proper supplies. The temperature was dropping, and this family had been out here, alone and struggling, while Sarah sat in her climate-controlled office worrying about profit margins. Shame burned through her, followed immediately by determination. Emma, I need you to stay with your mama. Keep her warm. I'm going to go get help. No. Emma grabbed Sarah's arm, her eyes wild with terror. You'll get lost too. Everyone leaves and doesn't come back. The fear in that small voice cracked something open in Sarah's chest. How many times had she told herself she was too busy for volunteer work, for community involvement, for anything that didn't directly advance her company? She'd built walls around her heart, convinced that success meant sacrifice, that caring was a weakness she couldn't afford. Looking at Emma's terrified face, those walls crumbled to dust. I will come back, Sarah said firmly, taking the girl's hands in hers. I promise you, Emma. I will not leave you alone. But your mama needs medicine in a hospital, and I'm the only one who can get help. Do you trust me? Emma searched her face for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Sarah stood, but Emma's mother grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. You don't understand. We have nothing. No insurance, no money. I can't pay for. I don't care about money, Sarah interrupted, and realized with startling clarity that she meant it. I care that you and your family are safe. She squeezed the woman's hand, then turned and ran. Her sense of direction had always been good, a skill from her childhood hiking with her father before life got complicated. She marked her path, breaking branches and kicking over distinctive rocks, anything to ensure she could find her way back. The woods grew darker with each passing minute. Sarah's lungs burned, her feet screamed in protest, but she pushed harder. She had to reach the parking lot. Had to get help. She'd promised. When she finally burst from the tree line, her Mercedes sat exactly where she'd left it, a beacon in the now empty lot. Her shoes lay abandoned on the wet pavement. She grabbed them, not bothering to put them on, and ran for her car. Her hands shook as she called 911. As she gave them directions. As she grabbed the emergency blankets and water bottles she kept in her trunk and ran back toward the woods. She met the first responders at the tree line, leading them back along her marked trail. The paramedics reached the tent in half the time it had taken Sarah. They worked with practiced efficiency, stabilizing Emma's mother, checking Emma for injuries or exposure. Sarah stood back, watching Emma cling to her mother's hand as they lifted her onto a stretcher. You're coming too, right? Emma called to Sarah, her voice small and scared. Right behind you, sweetheart. At the hospital, Sarah made calls. To her assistant, rescheduling everything. To her lawyer, setting up an account. To social services, ensuring this family would have support. She stood in the waiting room in her ruined suit, barefoot and muddy, making plans. Emma's mother had bacterial pneumonia. She'd be hospitalized for a week, maybe longer. Emma's father turned up 2 hours later, brought in by park rangers. He'd twisted his ankle badly on the trail and had spent the night sheltering in a cave, unable to walk far. The reunion in the hospital corridor left everyone in tears. Sarah sat with James and Emma in the waiting room while doctors treated his ankle. She listened to their story, the layoffs, the medical bills from an earlier illness, the cascade of bad luck that had stolen their stability. She heard herself in their words, remembered her own childhood when her father lost his job, when they'd lived in their car for 2 months when she was 8. She'd forgotten that girl, forgotten what it meant to be vulnerable, to need help, to rely on the kindness of strangers. She'd climbed so high she'd lost sight of the ground. Why are you helping us? James asked quietly. You don't know us. Sarah looked at Emma, who'd fallen asleep against her father's side, her small hand still clutching the sleeve of Sarah's jacket. Because once, someone helped me when I needed it most. And I forgot. But your daughter reminded me. Over the following weeks, Sarah did more than write checks. She found James a job at one of her supplier companies. She connected Emma's mother, whose name was Lisa, with job training programs. She helped them find an apartment, co-signed the lease, and made sure Emma was enrolled in a good school. But more than that, she changed. She restructured her company's charitable giving. She started a program providing emergency assistance to families facing homelessness. She began leaving work at reasonable hours, volunteering at shelters on weekends, reconnecting with the parts of herself she'd abandoned in pursuit of success. 3 months later, Sarah stood in Emma's new bedroom, hanging curtains. The apartment was small but warm, filled with the sounds of a family rebuilding their life. Emma appeared in the doorway, holding a drawing. "I made this for you," she said, thrusting the paper forward. Sarah took it, her throat tight. The crayon drawing showed 2 figures holding hands, one tall, one small, walking out of a dark forest toward a bright sky. At the top, in careful letters, Emma had written, "Thank you for finding us." But Sarah knew the truth. Emma had found her. In those woods, in the rain, a frightened child had led a lost woman back to her own humanity. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, pulling Emma into a hug. "Thank you for reminding me what matters." Success, Sarah had learned, wasn't measured in quarterly reports or profit margins. It was measured in moments like this, in the warmth of a child's embrace, in the chance to help someone rise, in the choice to run toward someone in need rather than away. It was measured in being fully, courageously human. She'd spent years building an empire. But it took one rainy evening, one desperate child, and one promise kept to finally build a life worth living.